Okay, Alex, you founded an organisation called Young Charity Trustees. Can you tell us a bit about why you decided to do that?
Yeah, it was because I started off as a trustee myself, and I realised there were very few young people who were becoming trustees. I wanted to find out a bit more about why, and the more I looked into the figures, I realised it was a problem that not too many people seemed to be doing something about, and I wanted to help.
Okay, great. And how have people responded to Young Charity Trustees?
Thankfully, really positively. We're a tiny organisation, so at the moment it's just me with the help of some volunteers and volunteer ambassadors. I've been really excited about the way in which other organisations have helped us, even larger organisations. I think in a lot of cases charities are really interested in reaching out to younger people. They don't necessarily know how to, which is part of the problem.
Okay, so when you talk about young trustees, what age is actually classed as being young?
That's a fantastic question, and it's one that people always ask me. For the purposes of a group we run on LinkedIn, we often say under the age of 35. However, actually, according to the Charity Commission's figures, the average age of trustees in England and Wales is 57. So I tend to say anyone under the age of 57, and that makes a lot of people very happy. So.
Indeed, I'm sure it does. Why would existing boards of trustees then want to look to make their board more diverse by encouraging young people to join them?
I'd say there's three main reasons. One is that boards are finding it difficult to recruit trustees generally, so that if you don't include young people, you miss out on a huge part of the population. Secondly, I'd say that young people can bring some particular skills which may be useful, and a range of skills including things like social media. But also I'd say that especially for youth charities, it can actually be something very good for funders, because people can see that people are willing to put their money where their mouth is and have real engagement of young people at the heart of their organisation.
Are there any specific types of organisations that might benefit from having young people on their board more than others?
I think it could be really any type of organisation. I think some of those who already work with younger people are going to have particular skills in bringing younger people on board and knowing how to work with them. But I think really, if we looked at the question in a different way, and we're talking about other types of diversity, we could say, for example, why would it be good for a board to have women on it, or people from an ethnic minority on it? And you realise that the real question is, why not? Why should there be a part of the population that just doesn't get involved in something that's so important to charities and so important to this country?
So why would young people want to look to become trustees? What are the benefits for them?
There's a range of reasons. One of them is that it's a great way to get involved in something that you're really passionate about, which I know is a motivating factor for a lot of trustees, young or old. The second thing is that for a lot of younger people, the type of skills that you can pick up from being a trustee, the networking that you can do, and the high-level decisions that you get to make are something that will probably be beyond your present pay grade. And so actually, especially at a time of high unemployment for younger people, people wanting to upskill and build up their CVs, there's some terrific opportunities through trusteeship out there for younger people.
You just mentioned there about the fact that people are out of employment. Today young people tend to be tarnished with a certain type of image often, and what kind of advice would you give to organisations that want to engage with young people as decision makers, especially if they're not in employment or educational training?
I think firstly the most important thing is to see young people, in fact any people, as individuals. Everybody's got something to offer, and for example for some organisations it might be young people from the target group that they're seeking to help, so the insights of those young people would add very much to the organisation. The second thing I'd say is that it's really important to have an attitude of what a person can do rather than what they can't and what are their limitations. No trustee on the board is going to have all the skills, however experienced they are, so perhaps there's a way to bring a younger person onto a board and to let them use the skills that they already have to grow in confidence and to take a full role on the board.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any barriers to recruiting young people onto a board or barriers for young people who are actually looking to become a trustee?
I think there's a few things. The first thing is to say that I think the biggest problem is just that young people don't realise that they can be trustees, and that charities aren't reaching out to young people to be trustees. Once both sides essentially have got over that hurdle, a lot of progress can be made. I think for the charity side, a lot of them feel that they don't have either the time or the money to recruit more widely for their boards in general, but I think that's a myth most of the time. For young people, I think they worry very much about whether they'll fit into the organisation, and the particular thing I hear is whether they'll be able to do a good job for the organisation. But I'm sometimes talking about people, young people, who have set up their organisations, have amazing charity experience, but somehow not quite having the confidence to say that they want to be a board member. And so part of my job is encouraging confidence on both sides, really.
And we mentioned it briefly earlier, the fact that young people do tend to be perceived in a particular way. How do you break that stereotypical perception within organisations?
I think that firstly it's really important not to bring on young people in some sort of tokenistic fashion. If people are doing it for almost the wrong reasons, I'd kind of rather they didn't involve young people at all. Young people aren't there to either to be a sort of sideshow, nor to represent the views just of young people. They're there as people in their own right. But I think that part of it is by boards helping to explain to some members, helping to explain to other members about the benefits of young people being involved. And particularly organisations like mine and many other organisations in this area, to show positive examples of young people getting involved, examples of people being young trustees, and also how to involve them successfully, so that there's some sort of template and organisations don't feel they're completely on their own.
And you're a charity trustee yourself. What would you say is the most challenging part of being a trustee?
I'd say that's probably being confident that I have a holistic understanding of the organisation. As a trustee, you're not expected to understand the minutiae of every part of an organisation, but you are supposed to have a sort of overarching understanding about how an organisation operates, who it helps, how it helps them, how it gets its money, for example. The best way to sort of learn is simply to ask people. So you need to engage with staff, most of the time it'll be senior staff, but also people working on the sort of front lines of provision, and also getting out and talking to the beneficiaries and some of the volunteers and some of the different groups. But I particularly think what helps is for trustees to understand that trusteeship is a form of volunteering. It's an amazing form of volunteering, but of course I advocate for anybody, but at the same time, trustees are a form of volunteers, and no volunteer is ever going to understand the organisation completely, and trustees shouldn't worry too much about that.
One thing that some people looking to become a trustee are worried about is the risk involved. What would you say to that?
This is definitely something that I've heard people being worried about, particularly young people who are perhaps worried about some of the sort of legalistic background of being a trustee. But I'd say, in essence, the law is that as long as people aren't willfully neglectful, an example of willful neglect might be a staff member for a charity committing fraud right in front of your eyes, you know about it, and as a trustee you don't do anything about it. That would be your fault, but it would be something that any reasonable person would deem to be your fault. Most of the time there's legal protections in place to help trustees, and I really don't think it's something that trustees should worry about. However, I would say that they need to have great confidence in the staff team, so I'd advise anyone taking on a trustee position to get to know the staff team a little bit first and make sure that they're happy with the general way in which the charity is being run.
So what would your top tips be for those people that are looking to either recruit young people onto their board, or for young people looking to become a trustee for the first time?
For people looking to recruit, I'd say don't worry too much about the methods of finding young people, which I find a lot of organisations worry about. Just the fact that you've decided to look out to try to recruit young people, and the young people can see that you're reaching out to them. That in itself is a wonderful and really positive thing. For young people, I'd say, look at all of your different options for organisations such as mine, which might help you find a trustee position. But actually, at the end of the day, be a bit of a maverick about it. Send an application with a CV and cover letters if you're applying for a job to a charity that you'd like to be a trustee for. The worst that they can say is they don't have any positions available. They'll probably be very impressed, and it might be at the future they remember you and a board position comes up. So it really is an amazing win-win situation.